Back at the round table today, looking at the must-watch Big East non-conference games. Let's get right into it with the top 16 games to watch. At number 16, it's Seton Hall versus Rutgers. It's a revenge game at home versus Rutgers after the Hall lost by 6 last season, and Rutgers ended the game on a 17-2 run. Seton Hall scheduled maybe the toughest non-conference slate of any team in the conference, and while this game won't be the toughest talent-wise, it's definitely one to watch for the rivalry implications. At 15, DePaul at Notre Dame. This is the best DePaul basketball team in a while. They're currently ranked 75th in KenPom. This is their best KenPom rating since 2007, which was also their last year they finished in the top 100. A win in this game, especially on the road, would be huge in helping this team create a new identity and would be a massive step towards respectability. And this DePaul team is actually good enough to win this game. 14 is Butler versus Indiana in the Crossroads Classic, which of course features 4 Indiana schools in Butler, Indiana, Purdue, and Notre Dame, all 4 very consistently good teams. This series is always a chance to at least get a good neutral site win since it started in 2011. Been a big fan of this event. Also worth noting that Butler is 5-2 in the Crossroads Classic, best record of the 4 teams, beating out 4-3 Indiana, so they will play to maintain their best record as well in this one. Next, we have 2 Creighton games, both on the road, at Oklahoma and at Nebraska. This is a big chance for Creighton to prove they can compete on the road. They were just 3-6 on the road in conference last season, tied for the second worst mark in the league. 12 will be Xavier at Cincinnati. The crosstown shootout is always one to look forward to. Xavier is 8-3 in their last 11 in this yearly showdown, but they are still 15 wins back behind Cincinnati in this matchup. It's also Travis Seal's first shootout as head coach of the Musketeers. At 11, it's Marquette versus Kansas State. Marquette gets a chance to play one of last season's Sweet 16 teams who brings back the Big 12 Preseason Player of the Year and one of the nation's best 1-2 punches. 2 very good teams going at it, a chance for a nice home win versus a top 25 team for the Golden Eagles. Into the top 10 now, Creighton versus Gonzaga. Creighton gave Gonzaga a pretty good game at Gonzaga last season. Now they welcome them to Omaha, where the Blue Jays always have a chance to win. Gonzaga enters the season as one of the nation's elites, and Creighton, although not as experienced as last season, will definitely be able to compete at home. At number 9, we have Providence at Texas. This is looking like Providence's best non-conference game and a true road game in Austin. Texas is looking like one of the best teams in what should be another very good year for the Big 12. And this game will also act as a preview of the Big 12 Big East Challenge that will begin next season. Georgetown at Syracuse is number 8. Similar to last season, Georgetown is playing a pretty soft non-conference schedule with one challenging game against Syracuse. However, this year, Syracuse looks like they'll be very good, maybe even an elite team out of the ACC. Georgetown will definitely come into this one as underdogs, especially on the road. But a battle of 2 Big East founding members is definitely one to look forward to, especially with the improvements both of these teams have made since last season. Number 7 speaks for itself. Seton Hall versus Kentucky. Seton Hall plays one of the nation's best at the Mecca, Madison Square Garden. This Kentucky team is clearly not as prepared as Kentucky teams in the past, but when it's all said and done, this should be a very good team and a great opportunity for this young Seton Hall team. Number 6 is Xavier playing in Maui. It's an absolutely loaded field for the Maui Invitational. Xavier will draw a very good Auburn team in round 1, and they'll have the potential to match up with Duke in the second round and potentially Gonzaga in the tournament final. So while the scenario is fairly unlikely, there is a chance to build an entire tournament resume in this one preseason tourney. Assuming they do lose to either Auburn or Duke, they should have Arizona and San Diego State in the losers bracket, so as long as they do pick up a win, it will be a resume-building one in this outstanding field of teams. In the top 5, we have Butler versus Virginia. This is a potential second-round matchup in the Bahamas, in Battle for Atlantis, and it assumes Butler survives Dayton and UVA survives Middle Tennessee, both fairly likely outcomes. This would be an NCAA tournament rematch game from 2016, which resulted in a second-round farewell to Butler in a pretty competitive game. UVA, once again, is one of the nation's best and maybe the best team out of the ACC. 4, we have Marquette versus Kansas. This should be a great early test for Marquette versus the nation's preseason number 1 team. There seems to be a fairly significant gap between Villanova and the rest of the conference, but Marquette is looking like the best challenger to Nova, and a win in Brooklyn versus Kansas would make a huge statement and really start to close that gap. Number 3 is Villanova versus Michigan in the Gavitt games. Obviously, the national championship game rematch is one to circle on the calendar. Also, this will be the first big game at Villanova's new Finneran Pavilion. St. John's at Duke is my number 2 most anticipated game. St. John's welcomed Duke to the Garden last year as losers of 11 in a row and without a conference win and took down Muddy Duke. Now they go to Cameron Indoor to play a Duke team absolutely loaded with freshman talent. A lot of new faces for Duke, but this is still very much a revenge game for the Blue Devils. St. John's had talent last year, but success eluded them more often than not. But this is a new year, and they look like a much better team with even more talent and could be a legit contender in March. Villanova at Kansas just beats out St. John's Duke for the number 1 spot on my list. The reigning national champs and preseason number 1 in the conference will go to Lawrence, Kansas to take on the nation's preseason number 1 team. Also, of course, a Final Four rematch from last season and an Elite 8 rematch from 3 seasons ago. This game is the start of a 2-game series with Kansas taking a trip to the main line next season. This is just about as can't miss as it gets in college basketball. That's it from the Roundtable. Let me know in the comments what game you're most looking forward to, and subscribe to RTT for more Big East basketball. Hope you enjoyed the video, and thank you very much for watching.